Welcome to the Farm to School podcast, where you will hear stories of how youth thrive and farmers prosper when we grow, cook, and eat delicious, nutritious local foods in schools across the country and the world.
We're your hosts, Rick Sherman
and Michelle Markestein.
And for today's episode, we have a special guest. We have our first returning guest.
Hi, Erin.
Erin Croom from the Small Bites Adventure Club in Atlanta, Georgia. And she brought
Chef Asata. Hello.
Thank you, friend Chef Asata.
Hi. Hello, everyone. We're glad to be here today.
I'm so excited. Before we even were talking, I was saying that to you both, and would love to say to the world that, lots of people have great ideas, and some people can take steps towards those ideas. But what you've done is literally remarkable. You've taken an amazing idea based on a whole body of research and evidence, but made it really fun, really like the art and science coming together of, growing happy, healthy kids. And I just want to say thank you. You've grown the idea, you're expanding it, and I'm really excited to hear more about where you're headed with it.
Well, where you're headed, and Erin, can you back up a little bit and tell us how you got there? You haven't been doing the Small Bites Adventure Club forever. You were doing something, I think, back when I met you about 15 years ago. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Thanks. And thank you for having us on. We're really excited to talk about what we're doing. So, yes, I have always been obsessed with farm to school. I did my graduate program in 2002, I think. And my focus was on farm to school with the Vermont Feed program up in Vermont. Mm-hmm. Came back south. I'm from the South. I'm from Mississippi, but I moved to Atlanta and worked with a great organization called Georgia Organics to grow our farm to school program in Georgia, which is where I met Asata. And we've been working together. Asata, has it been 15, 16 years? It's been a long time.
That makes us sound really old.
So, yes, I've always just really loved farm to school. I love partnerships and doing things, kind of looking at a common goal and working together towards that to kind of grow and scale. And so we're kind of using all of those same elements with Small Bites Adventure Club.
Back in the day, we used to cross paths all the time because there was only a handful of people doing on the ground farm to school work. There are a lot of people thinking about it. But as far as people showing up in schools and training nutrition staff, training teachers, working with kids, there was only a handful of people, and we kept crossing paths. And so when Erin brought the idea of Small Bites to me, I thought it was the most intelligent, brilliant, amazing thing I ever heard. It's like putting a teacher and a farmer and a food educator and a trainer all in one box, but make it cute and make it fun and make it accessible. And it was just brilliant, just absolutely blew my mind. And so kudos to Erin, because she's been the visionary behind this from the beginning. And I mean, Erin, tell them about the carrots when COVID hit and we went into pandemic mode, and all of a sudden school wasn't in anymore. Kids were at home. She made this incredible pivot, and I hate that word. I wish I could light it on fire and burn it.
Really?
But Erin pivoted like a ice skater in the Olympics doing a pirouette. It was amazing.
Wow.
Erin,
she pirouetted.
She
pirouetted.
First of all, I will make sure I try to strike that from my memory when talking to you, Chef Asata. So
let's hear about the carrot.
Let's hear about the
pirouette.
carrots. Yeah.
Oh gosh, we had
the carrot pirouette. That is what we shall call it going forward.
So we had started Small Bites. It had a lot of different iterations, but it was really getting going in March 2020, and we had our biggest order. And it was going to go out to, I don't know, something like 300 schools was our biggest order to date.
What's in an order? And tell us, what does that consist of?
So, and we've kind of made some iterations, but essentially you think about HelloFresh. So it's HelloFresh meets food education is what, Small Bites Adventure Club is essentially. So we used to actually send all of the pre-measured ingredients, like fresh food, as well as the step-by-step instructions, the stickers, everything a teacher needs to lead a really hands-on, a really easy, fun, hands-on education. So Asata makes all these great recipes that we kind of break down into an easy activity. So we do all that now, except we don't actually we don't ship fresh food. We'll work with like Instacart to get the food delivered. But essentially, we had all these carrots, and my biggest stress on I think it was March 12th is that we didn't have enough carrots, and I was running around trying to find more carrots.
Now these are local and regional carrots that you
Yes.
source.
What kind of pounds or tonnage or truckloads are we talking about?
Oh gosh, we're that is a great question, and I'll have to go back and look at that Excel sheet. But it would have been enough, for about 5,000 kids.
That's a lot.
A pretty substantial order.
It's a lot, and you guys know with farm to school, it's seasonal. So here we are doing that February to March kind of shift, and the carrots are like, maybe. Based on the harvest.
Right.
Yeah, you know how farm to school is. Sometimes something's according to your grow chart, it's supposed to be in, and then it may or may not. And that's already an issue.
And usually
Go ahead, Erin.
and usually we use it as a learning opportunity. We say, well, that's just how it is. But in this the COVID carrot caper, also known as
the pirouette,
something else happened.
Right. So then.
Yeah. So anyway, but Friday, I guess that was Friday the 13th.
13th, yeah.
Of course.
That's when Georgia shut down. And so we immediately were like, shut it down. And we donated a lot of carrots the following Monday we did not ship out all those orders, and we pivoted. And I think Asata, thank goodness, she's so great. At teaching, we ended up doing a lot of virtual, classes, and we made it work. We did different home kits that we worked with a lot of great organizations, and continue doing food education in a bit of a different way. So we have reverted back to more of our traditional business plan, in the last couple of years. But
and so out of that, we were able to kind of flip what was a classroom kit and turn it into a home kit for kids who are at home with their parents, and took into a lot of consideration the barriers that may be facing kids and parents around food, but turned Small Bites Adventure Club into a home kit that kids could use to continue to learn, just learn, period, because the educational standards are always embedded. But, during a time where there was so much stress and so much worry and so much thought around food shortages, kids are still able to learn and have positive experiences and learn about soil and learn about bugs and learn about life cycles and learn about art and all of that through these home kits that we delivered in partnership during that time. It was a complete flip from what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you take it from? Now you went classroom, then you went home kits. What's been the trajectory since then? Where you headed?
Sure. So we have gone. Some of our main partners have revolved around SNAP-Ed partnerships. So we have a lot of nonprofits that do amazing on the ground work. And so one way that we partner with schools is through those nonprofits that have SNAP-Ed funding. And so we work with those groups to send out every month those teachers that are leading kids in a lot of different activities. They're able to do at least one hands-on food education activity a month. So a lot of times those are Boys and Girls Clubs, those are child care programs out in the community that have a little bit of extra time, but also have a big focus on how can we teach these kids some really simple nutrition during this time. So every month, the schools that we ship to, they get everything they need to lead a really fun recipe with kids that's focused on fruits and vegetables. They get stickers. You can't do anything without stickers with kids. You got to have stickers. Handouts to go home to mom and dad or their favorite grown-up. as well as we've got a great new digital platform. So now teachers can go on and, check out the recipe. Asata does some incredible videos for instruction. So kids can watch it, teachers can watch it on how to make the recipe, but also how to set up your room for success.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's another really, really important kind of differentiator with Small Bites is we don't just show you how to make the recipe. It's also, and so you can talk about this a little bit, is what do teachers need to know to make food education accessible for kids? So how do you set up your room? How do you have the materials ready? How are you talking about food? So they'll make the recipe, they'll talk about it. So we have all the materials about how to talk about food and how to get kids to discuss it in a way that takes the conversation beyond you liked it, you didn't like it. It's more about how does it taste? How does it feel? What does it make you think about it? How would you like to taste it differently? Mm-hmm. And then of course, take home recipes for home. So.
Yeah, and I think our kids they're very, as much as they are rooted in the experiential learning of the kids, it is also very much in mind that this is a teacher tool. This is a turnkey tool that teachers can use as soon as they open the box. We got to give a shout out to Jenna, because Jenna is our farm to school educator extraordinaire, and we all have classroom experience, but Jenna really roots us with the teacher experience, and she's kind of our barometer on reality. That's not going to fly in the classroom. Their teachers are going to love this. Mm-hmm. And so when you get a kit as a teacher, it's not a one and done. It's not just about the recipe. The recipe is sort of like the highlight of the learning experience, but there's all kinds of vocabulary and math and science and even social studies embedded in these kits. So a teacher can return to this resource for a month's worth of educational touch points that may line up with something they're already doing in life science, that they may already be doing in math. And the response from teachers has just been consistently phenomenal over the years. They love it. I think they might like it more than the kids, which is amazing to say.
Right?
Small Bites, the response has been phenomenal. And that's just really great, because it lets us know not only are we reaching the kids and the families, but the teachers are behind it. And when teachers get behind something, it's real.
Well,
that is your litmus test of usefulness.
That's the thing we found out too. It's that you have to have a champion. It's great. How does the message get to the kids? You need the teachers and administrators. If administrators get it, then that's your secret sauce. They can really push it out to everybody. So let me ask you guys about that. In terms of success, how do you measure that? How many homes are you in? Do you two-parter? How many places do you go to send these out? And then are you only locally? Do you send out to other states like, HelloFresh does? Or
Yes. So we have partnered with over 350 school programs. So that includes childcare programs, after-school programs, and K-5 schools. How do we measure impact? We're looking at, how many kids tried it, how many teachers feel confident about leading food education. Those are the things that are most important for us, is if a teacher leads the program and they're saying, you know what, I can totally do this with my students again, and I really enjoy doing it. That's when we know, we've hit success, is that we've got a teacher that is excited about leading it, beyond the time that there was Small Bites. So that's really important. But yeah, we started in Georgia, and we have, grown a little bit every year. And I believe by the time that this episode airs, and this will be public, but we just got a USDA farm to school grant announcement that we're going to be expanding in partnership with a group called Eat Real. That is a great nonprofit.
Amazing.
And we're going to be expanding into an additional 4 states.
Congratulations.
So I'm really excited about that. Thank you.
Yeah. That's good. We'll put links to the Eat Real and as well as Small Bites Adventure Club in our show notes.
Fantastic. Yeah. I think that's Alabama, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. And we have had partnerships in North Carolina in California over the last 3 years as well. So we're excited. And, I think our main vision when we started this is how can you create food education that is really easy, it's really fun, it's evidence-based, and it's scalable. And I think that's the one piece that we're always thinking about is if you want something to be equitable, you've got to have it also be scalable. So how can we create something that any teacher can do that's, working on the front lines with students, that they feel like they can take it and go with it. And you don't have to, invest in a 3-day training that's maybe across the country, or, expensive curriculums that get shelved. How easy can we make this for teachers? I think, we have to respect that, food and farm to school just aren't the most important things for everybody out there. So how can we make it something that's easy and fun enough, and that any teacher could take it and say, you know what, I can do this with my students an hour a month, and the impact that can make on a child's life to have some experience, a positive experience doing hands-on food education in the classroom, where there's no expectation that they have to eat it. There's no expectation that they even have to like it, but it's really bringing a positive experience early on while they're still, creating those good habits, and their taste buds are changing and their minds are growing. So that's really the impact that we want to have across the nation.
And I just want to add on to that, like one of the major focal points in early child care or early child education is that first 1,000 days of literacy. And there's a focus on them knowing their letters and their sounds. There's a focus on number recognition and things like that. But what we know about food is that the early lessons that you take in impact the choices and the behaviors you have as an adult. So we're using this literacy window to build food literacy. Called How to Feed a Kid, which was based on my thesis work on picky eating. And picky eating kind of peaks around age 6. We're talking about first graders. We're talking about second graders. So imagine if they'd already had 5 years, 4 years, because the first year is like a liquid diet, 4 or 5 years of positive food exposure, positive taste experiences. One of my joys is really working with those toddlers, because we're taking for granted they know what an apple or a watermelon tastes like. They don't know what it looks like. So when you bring in a farm fresh watermelon, you bring in local fresh apples, and it's amazing and sweet and juicy, and the juice is running down their arms, and those faces are covered in like watermelon juice, and they're like in it, having this whole sensory experience. Like, a watermelon isn't something to see, a watermelon isn't something to bite. A watermelon is something to dive into and relish. Tell me that's not going to stick with them. Tell me that's not going to be a kid who's like, oh, wait, what? Watermelon? That's the bomb. Apples, I'm here for it. And so if that same experience is in cucumbers, and that same experience is in green beans, and that same experience is in spinach, this kid is just like, bring it, So now we're working against their natural neophobia, and we're encouraging their natural curiosity to override it. You just created an adventurous eater. You just created a kid whose norm is what we quote unquote call healthy. They're rooted in fruits and vegetables. It's not scary. It's not new. It's completely normal. And I want more of it. I expect it. That's my norm. Yeah. And you don't have to force it. There's no coercion. Granted, when we are in a group setting, like a classroom, there is positive peer pressure. So we just use that to our benefit. Like, Erin loves this story that I tell about a little girl named Priya. I had a pre-K class who was very enthusiastic. She participated in every food cooking activity that we had. She was just in it, refused to eat anything, not a bite. And I had this class for 6 months. So every 2 days for 6 months, these kids are being exposed to food through fun, hands-on activities, not to toot my own horn, but we had a good time. The last day, Priya ate, I don't even remember what we were making, but she ate it. Not only did she eat it, she ate it all. I could not wait for her parents to come into the room. I think it was her dad that day, and be like, you're not going to believe this, but Priya actually ate the snack. And it was just like a moment of unbelievable. She was like the epitome of picky kids. And it was just a phenomenal thing to see that after all this repeated exposure in a very comfortable environment where there was no pressure, she took it upon herself to do that. I mean, you know, I could have retired at that moment. It's done.
Yeah.
My job here is done.
Nice.
So to that point, teachers are really busy. There's a lot of things going on. Like you said, you're making kits to make it more simple. But what are some other specific things teachers can do?
I think, again, with us making these very teacher accessible, one of the things we had to do was get off our farm to school high horse and realize not everybody cooks, not everybody wants to cook, and that includes teachers. So that's a barrier. How do we overcome this barrier? Well, one is we've got a virtual introduction, like an orientation that they can do, just a couple of minutes. And then two, when the kit arrives, it literally answers every question. Everything you need, everything you could want is in the kit. It's like open the booklet and begin. If you just go sentence by sentence, even by having students read the booklet, it will walk you through preparing a simple recipe. In fact, the visuals in the booklet are kids preparing the recipe. It's literally childproof. So I think with our intentional focus of making these non-cook recipes, they're not even cooking recipes, they're more like assembly. These non-cook recipes that are step-by-step that even a child could do. It takes away that burden on the teacher, like you need to be an expert. You need to know how to cook. You need to know about nutrition. You need to know about anything. It's all explained. It's all there. And I think that has been the biggest hurdle to clear as far as making it accessible for teachers.
I love that. Some of our, observational studies and things have also shown that when youth and adults grow and learn together, it's so powerful. I think as a parent, Erin, you mentioned that, but as a parent and an educator, there's this internal sense I have of like, oh, I'm supposed to know. And then,
right.
you impart experiences or knowledge or something. But I always think like it's so much better when youth and adults grow and learn and explore together.
I've been doing some of this early farm to school work, but we're going to go way back into like the Obama era where Chefs Move to School got started. I was working in or volunteering at my kids' school with another local chef, Michael Deal. And we'd come out and we'd do these things. Sometimes we'd use beets. Sometimes we'd have mushrooms. And these are challenging, quote unquote, challenging foods supposedly for young people. Inevitably, there's always an adult in the room, a teacher, a para, somebody who's like, this is the first time I've ever had it and I like it. Mm-hmm. And the kids are amazed. They're like, how did you get to your big age? Because, all teachers are like 1,000 years old in their eyes. How did you get to your big age and you never had a mushroom? Mm-hmm. But the bravery of a teacher to say, I've never had these is like an admission of humanity, in front of 35 kids, 45 kids, because they usually collapse the classrooms. And the kids relate. Like, oh, wow, we're doing this together. Mm-hmm. And I like it too. And it's just something really kind of human where a teacher gets to take off her official hat and just be a person with her kids, which they do in the classroom all the time. But that's just another moment of bonding. Food brings everyone together. There's a couple of things we have to do to continue living, breathing, drinking water, eating, you know what I mean? Like, yes. It's just like, however you feel about it, whatever you think about it, whatever politics get assigned to it, it still has to happen. So what a great tool to bring people together. It always has and it always will. But on top of that, it's the perfect medium to find continuity between curricular silos. It doesn't really work to teach math in a silo if you can't make math real. I just made, because I have a sourdough starter, so I have to bake every day now. I didn't realize that. But I just made blueberry muffins and bread and all this stuff with my seven. Is she 7? I don't know. I forgot. She's going into 3rd grade. But with my daughter, and it's all math. And she's just in here scooping and measuring. Now it's real. Now a fraction makes sense. It was 1/2, but now it's half. Oh, I get it. It's totally different understanding of fractions. Had someone taught me fractions that way back in 1900s, it would have made a whole lot more sense, and I would have struggled a lot less.
Yeah, we found not only that, but I think food is the great equalizer. I think it brings people together. It teaches us about cultures, family. It's just, when you get into food, it's such a great opportunity for learning, and especially like what we're talking about, where your food comes from and stuff. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I love that in our kids too. There's like a map of Georgia for the Georgia kids, and you can see this is exactly the farm. Here's a picture of the farmer. Like, this is from Georgia. You're here. Your food came from here. Look at that.
Erin, you mentioned that you were expanding into 4 different states. Are you going to be continuing this similar program, or are you doing something different?
Thanks for asking. We actually are working on a brand new program called Veggie Ready. And I'm really excited about this because the vision is a real big focus on 4 and 5-year-olds and helping them become veggie ready by the time they get to 1st grade. So what that means is it's a 5-month program that teachers can lead in preschools, pre-K programs, or even kindergarten. And it introduces kids to 4 new vegetables, how to make their own 4 healthy vegetable-based snacks that they can make in the classroom, and they can bring it home and learn how to make. And it's also teaching them how to become adventurous eaters. So teachers are trained to do this program, to lead it. And the kids get certified in becoming veggie ready. The teachers become veggie ready certified. And we're really excited about launching this in not just Georgia, but with 4 different states. So so call to action, like definitely check out the program at smallbites.club/veggie ready. And if you can't do it, my call to action for teachers or parents is think about doing something easy with kids around food. You don't even have to make a recipe. Just put, a sweet potato in a bag and have kids feel around and, explore, what it feels like, or, guess what might be in there, or, grow something simple out in your garden, or go to the grocery store and look at different fruits and vegetables together and kind of talk about, what they might taste like or where they might have grown. So food education doesn't have to be hard. But it can be really fun, and it can make such a big impact on small kids for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and food exposure isn't always eating the food. I would love for parents and teachers, but especially parents, to know it takes so many years of exposure sometimes, depending on the child, before they're willing to try and eat something. My stepson's pushing 30, but I remember when broccoli, just looking at it, made his stomach turn. Like to try and force him to eat it, the kid would literally retch. He's just fine now. Like that's something he had to grow through, and it just took time. So when your kids are, and I get it. I'm a parent. I have 3 kids, which is why I can't remember their birthdays. Well, 5 total. But come in the kitchen and just stir this rice, or measure this rice that has to go into the pot and stir it for me. That's it. That's an exposure. There's times you want to get in and out of the grocery store. You don't want to bring your entourage because they're going to cost you $50 more just by being there in the grocery store. I get it. But there are times when I can have 1 or 2 kids. We're going to the grocery store. It's like, hey, can you measure out a pound of green beans? Can you find the black beans with the lowest price? That's food exposure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that.
Don't eat when they're hungry.
That's a really good message. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you having you here.
And
thank you,
Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah.
Y'all are amazing.
Thank you. Farm to School podcast was written, directed, and produced by Rick Sherman, Michelle Margestein, with production support from the amazing Leanne Locker. Thank you, Leanne. And was made possible by a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture.
The content and ideas on the Farm to School podcast does not necessarily reflect the opinions of Oregon State University, Oregon Department of Education, and the United States Department of Agriculture. The USDA, Oregon Department of Education, and Oregon State University are equal opportunity providers and employers.
Do you want to learn more about Farm to School? Check out this episode, other episodes, show notes, and get in touch with us by Googling up Farm to School Podcast OSU.
We would love to hear from you. Stop by the website Michelle just mentioned to say hello or give us an idea, please, for a future podcast.
Yeah, we'd really love to hear from you. And thanks again, Chef Asata and Erin. We really appreciate you sharing your story.
All right. See you next time,
Thanks for having
everybody.
us.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.